Hi guys, it's me Toffee Dog, or for this video and for this video series I'm going to be known as my normal name, Sarah Green, because I'm doing a vlog for my level 4 foundation course, which requires me to go through my sketchbook and basically do a oral reflection. Now I've got my notebook here. As you can see, I've already started reflections, but I thought to do both because there are instances where I may not be able to write exactly what point I'm trying to reach. It's just easier. So this is my current sketchbook. Ignore that, it's not really a notebook, but our topic is play. Now, this is a very varied word. I know when I looked at it, I thought, oh my gosh, there's so many directions we could do with it. But the main thing I was thinking about, and am still thinking about doing, is to play with different materials. I've really been pushing myself this year to experiment with unusual materials, but I want to take it to the next level. Try and limit myself in mark making. Don't use any traditional media, or if you do, use it in a way that you wouldn't normally use. So don't use your hands to draw with a pencil. Use your mouth or something weird, but it's going to change yourself. So this is our brief, but if you're watching, you already know. Now, we started Tuesday, which was yesterday, and there was supposed to be a vlog from yesterday, but we're going to put two together. So we were looking at what words and review on the course we've done so far. Now for me, I'm very orderly, so I decided to split up into some groups first. So research, so that's like contextual research, artist research, even imagery, context, techniques, artists, which does go into research, but I put that separately because in my head it's easier, inspiration, problem solving, which is a biggie because I've always struggled with how to explain my problem solving. I didn't always fully understand that. So context, my last project, I remember a lot of reusing. I remember I reused all my materials, and I did set myself a goal, like I'm trying to do now, of not wasting any materials. I would have to use all those materials in my work, or find another way to use the scraps, even the plain scraps. And I was just very much looking into the environments that really, went into it. I made these different colours because I write a lot, but I thought if we're going to make this a nice presentation, well, let's change up the colours and put them for different titles, so it's not just a whole page of black writing. Techniques, I got mono printing. I really remember that. I don't know whether that's white because it was recent, but I remember a lot of printing techniques, negatives and positives, because I always draw in negatives and positives when I'm sketching. I always imagine it as two separate things, the foreground and background, and that's how my mind works. So for example, if I was to look at this dog here, I would see him as a foreground and then all the rest as a background, and I would just paint the background rather than sketch the blanket in background. So I put more detail into him, and then I'd let the paint do the detail in the background. I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. We did have those 3 things that we enjoyed. This review was quite hard because nothing really stuck out to me apart from a few things, and I kind of felt I couldn't put that much writing into it, which made me think I was just very bad. So 3 things. I'm going to let you read that for a bit. Just make sure that's there. Plaster. Now let's talk about plaster. If you never worked with plaster before, I'm doing this just to explain. It's very malleable like clay, but then when it sets, it is very smooth. It picks up on all the lovely details. And working with plaster and clay, they really complement each other well. And I think I spent about 2 weeks just doing plaster experimentation, which is something I do want to take forward, definitely. Maybe I could even paint with plaster, get a brush and paint with plaster, do a sketch and either keep it on the page or peel it off, something like that, or mix it with other materials. Freud theories. So Freud theories are theories about the mind and the id. The id is your subconscious, where the things you really want to do, but because of social pressures and because of where you live and how people act if you were to do those things you really desired, how we're repressing those. So I've always been interested in it. That was something I put in my project anyway, so There we are, painting with anything but a paintbrush, which I've already covered already. So new ideas, so dog stereotype crafts, that was in my mind because of this incident at crafts. There was a PETA protest. Pareidolia, that is where you see faces in inanimate objects. So for example, I actually see a face in my clothing pile there. It's hard to explain, but I will get some imagery and point it out. Freud ideas and id. So then we looked at the thought process, which is when we ripped up news articles that got our attention and we posted it all on a big wall, which was actually very freeing. I just love ripping things apart and deconstructing things. So we had to choose a response, and because I love puns and I want to make my work quite light-hearted, I've done a lot of negative contextual things about environmental and it being bad. So this time I want to steer clear and actually be more upbeat with my work and my context. So Rapunzel was one. It was in normal font, so that's why it's not a picture. So I said hold a spotlight because that's the first thing it came to my head. It was like, how could she use her hair apart from making a man climb up it? Like, what are the weirdest ways? Basically, I wanted to throw off the viewer. I wanted to respond in a way they would never think to respond, but would make sense in some way. So I took apart the word. I looked at repetition because I'm a creative writer. I looked at why. I also looked at why was this cut short, because normally it goes Rapunzel, let down your hair. So why was it just the start? Because it didn't look like part of it had been ripped out. It looked like that was the only font on that page. And then I looked at hair. I looked at what other Rapunzels are there. Are there other famous Rapunzels I don't know about? Or is there just this one from a fairy tale, which is another? And then I looked at beauty confessions because I am not a beauty person, but I kind of love contradicting beauty and somewhat not challenging it, but I don't really think certain people look beautiful. I think everyone is beautiful. So when it said beauty confessions, so this, I imagined a girl typing on her computer, oh, I don't know how to get my lipstick on point, which is a very stereotypical thing for me to say, but that is the very first that crossed my mind. So what could I do that would be shocking? My response was, I have frog legs, with a quick illustration of frog legs. Now, this is, again, throwing the viewer off, but it's kind of, that is a real beauty confession. If you had frog legs, surely you would say. So it's a bit odd, lipstick confessing. So I came up with these questions. What is beautiful? Because I didn't want to just look at people, I wanted to look at animals and plants, even patterns. What do we find beautiful? Are people still being used as tools? Are we still using each other to fulfill certain roles? And also, what is fashionable? Because fashion does change, and I learned that in my last project. So today, we collected 40 images that grab your attention, and we put it up all on the wall, which will be included here. I have the photos, but I do not currently have the evidence. So this will be it for the video, but I will film something tomorrow morning just to prove the evidence is there.